Right here, you will see different steps that you can take when you're actually doing an appointment with your client. You get to introduce yourself and engage in small talk. Assess the client. Did they actually attend the information session or meetings during the week? What was most interesting thing that they learned or wanted to know more? You get to do an initial financial assessment questions that I will show you here in a second. Based on your assessment, determine if the client will benefit from the blue PowerPoint or types of life insurance. Because if they did not really understand anything that was discussed, then we'll need to start from the beginning. And then you do an IUL illustration with all the benefits. You do a needs analysis calculator. And then you put that application. You talk about annuities and set appointment to talk more, and also show an illustration at a different time, right, for those annuities. And then ask for referrals and offer books like Retirement Miracle. So between the time you put the application and the time the clients get approved, go ahead and refer a book so they can be reading while they're hoping and praying they get approved, right? And then you recruit, pretty much you offer an opportunity so they can help the community save their money. Also, they get to make extra income. This will also help them save on taxes. Remember, they'll get a 1099. Once you do that, don't forget to give them study material, show them how to study. Do one chapter quiz together before you leave Zoom. And then also help them to schedule for the exam. These are the initial questions that you're going to ask your client. First of all, you want to know how familiar are they or how comfortable are they when it comes to investments. Do they have an advisor or CPA? Then go ahead and ask all these questions from, do you have a retirement plan? Do you have kids? If they do they have an account for them to go to college? Do they want them to go to college? Do you have an emergency fund? Do they have any debt? Do they have any tax-free account, meaning an account they don't have to pay taxes? Do they have life insurance? Ask them if they have an additional income outside their job. And all you're doing here is collecting the answers. You're not giving any advice. You just want to know a little bit about your client so that you can be able to help them better. Also ask them, are they married, or are they a single parent, and so on and so forth. You don't have to ask them if they would consider an additional income outside their job, but you can always ask this question later at the very end of your meeting. When you're doing an illustration, these are the steps you need to take. You have step and the benefits, right? So you have all the way from number 1 to number 12, which is $1 Million Baby. Now, number 13, where it says explain the difference between guarantee and non-guarantee, you really want to wait until when the client receives the policy and then can go over this with them. But other than that, you explain to them all the benefits from compound interest, probate court-free death benefit, tax-free, terminal illness, critical illness, chronic illness, access to cash as a withdrawal, and access to cash as a loan, autopilot, flexible premiums, income for life, and of course, $1 Million Baby. So these are all the benefits that you need to be comfortable explaining when you're doing the illustration. After you're done with the illustration, you need to do the following closing questions before you even do analysis for your client. You're going to ask them, do they have a driver's license ever suspended? Have they ever had a speeding ticket? Are they currently on any medications or prescriptions? Have they ever tested positive for COVID and how bad it was? Are they a U.S. citizen or permanent resident? And then, of course, the words on the yellow, you really want to pay attention to those because these are things that you're going to be telling your client, right? As they're putting the application, after you ask the closing questions. Now, another thing, when you figure out your client is a diabetic or they have uncontrolled high blood pressure, you need to put applications at least 2 companies just to give them chances for approval because other companies have, companies usually have different regulations when it comes to medical problems and stuff like that. So that's what you gotta bear in mind. And also we'll go over in trainings so that you get to understand better other different ways where you can help your client save money, right? Or get qualified. All right. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get started here. So I have my client with me. My name is Dr. Veronica, and I am so blessed to have each one of you listening to this amazing. It's a training, but I also have a client with me, and this is Miss Hortensia Boro that's, volunteered to be our client today. So I'm so glad to see you. Hortensia, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's been a while since we met, and I remember last time we met, Penny had actually invited you to one of our sessions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. How did you find our sessions? How were they?
It was very informative. I definitely learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now,
Yeah.
did you attend the $1 Million Baby one, or did you attend the one on Thursday?
I attended both of them.
Oh, okay. So what was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is the tax benefit. I didn't know there was anything like a tax-free account. So
Mm-hmm.
I was really surprised by that information. I've never heard of it before.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know there's a way I can save for my daughter for college,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just set them up for success.
Yes, and congratulations. I know you just had your daughter. But yeah, so this is the perfect time, to actually, save money for them. A lot of parents think their kids have to be like already going to school or need to be like, 5 and 6 or even like 12 before they can start saving for college. But it's actually the perfect time. As long as your child is at least 15 days old, we can do something like that. So yeah. So I'll be more than happy to, of course, share with you how this account works. So you can get to better understand. But I still have a few questions for you, okay? All right. So Hortensia, can you remind me a little bit, what is your experience when it comes to investments? Do you have a financial advisor? Do you have a CPA that you're working with?
I have a 401k
Mm-hmm.
and a Roth IRA.
Okay. But do you have
Yeah.
like any person that's doing your finances right now? Like a CPA, financial advisor? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And then when it comes to your child, you already said you don't have anything for college for them, correct? All
Yes.
right, so I will go over that. So retirement, you already said you have a 401k, and what other account again?
Roth IRA.
Roth IRA. Okay. All right. Those are good ones. Nice, nice, nice. All right. So another question is, do you have a tax-free account? Are you familiar with tax-free accounts?
No, I just heard of it in the BPM meeting for
Yeah.
the first
Actually,
time.
you have a Roth IRA that is a tax-free account. I just wanted to know what's
Oh,
your
yeah.
understanding. Yeah. So what it means is you grow your money in an account that when later you take it out, you don't have to pay taxes. Okay. But yes,
Mhm.
but we can talk more on the differences between the two. Okay. But yeah, but the 401k, no, that is not tax free. You're gonna have to pay taxes later. Yeah, awesome. All right, so that is good enough. And another question, do you have life insurance?
I have one from work.
Oh, okay. So that's called a group life. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so we'll talk about a little bit on that. Let's see. Do you have any additional stream of income outside your job?
No, not at the moment.
No? Okay. All right. No income outside work. And you are married, right?
Yes.
All right. Where is your husband? I mean, he was supposed to be here. Where is he?
Unfortunately, he's at work.
He's at work. Oh, okay. So usually like couples to be together, but me knowing you, Hortensia, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this today. But we're gonna have to set another time also to go over this again with your husband, right? So usually I don't do this because I like couples being together, but just because today's just a special day and it's just like it just worked out like this. So we're gonna go ahead and do this appointment, but just so you know, bear in mind, it's good for your husband to also listen to know how these accounts work. Sounds good?
Good.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so that I can run some illustrations for you to see. So give me a second. Let me log back in here. Give me just a second. Sometimes, it's easier when it's logged in already. But you know what? Let's do it this way. So right here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and log into this account. I have my client with me, but I don't have to show my client this. how I'm logging in, right? So I'm gonna log in. On the top right corner, you see menu. So I'm gonna click on menu. And then there's recruiting and selling. I'll click on that. And then I'll go down to sales tools and information. Then I'll go to Trans America Life Illustrator. And then I'll go to click here to continue. This is access to my illustration. You'll see my name on the top right corner. Do you see that? Yeah. Now, another way of accessing this. Now, if you have your toolbox set up on the top right corner, there's like a briefcase. If you click on this briefcase and you see a Trans America Life Illustrator and click on it, still it's a shortcut, right? Click here to continue. It's still going to bring you to the same exact illustration. You're going to notice there's your name on the top right corner. Does that make sense? All right. So, Hortensia, I'm going to go ahead and actually show you how this account works. Okay. This is an example of a 32-year-old female that I'm going to show you in your state of residence. So I'm in Missouri. Are you in Missouri too, still?
I'm in Kansas City.
Oh, you're in Kansas City. Okay. Well, I'm here in Missouri, but yeah. So it's going to be an example, 32-year-old female. Okay. Then my state of residence. This, I just want you to first understand how it works. Okay. And they want a policy as well. Because remember, this account can be used for kids and also can be used for adults. But this is an adult and they wanted $1 million policy. Okay. And it's going to be a graded death benefit and CVAT. I'm going to leave it at target, but this person is going to contribute annually because usually annually gives you more savings on there because you're kind of like cutting off on those little monthly costs. As far as index accounts, I'm going to put 50, 50, right? So I'm going to allocate your money 50-50. And then under income, I don't have to change anything yet, but we'll use this later. As far as riders, these are like add-ons, right? So what else can they add? So these, you don't pay for them. They're just complimentary. So if somebody qualifies, then they get it. Now, I'm going to explain that more later. Maybe I might add some statistics there on White Transamerica. Under the output types, you know, I can either do values or PDF. I prefer values because you're just showing the numbers. When you show PDF, it's mainly if you want to like show guarantee or non-guarantee stuff like that. Maybe we can do towards the end. But let's stick on the values part. Okay, so we're just showing the numbers. So when it comes to your illustration setup, once again, you only focus on these few things. Under insured, you put the state, your state, because you're just illustrating, 32-year-old female, okay, in your state of residence. Policy design, it's going to say cash value accumulation test, graded $1 million policy, target premium annual. Index accounts, you are going to put 50-50, okay? Income and targeting. Under income and targeting, here you're not going to put anything yet, but we'll use that later. And then, of course, you go down to riders. Under riders, chronic critical illness, you want to make sure those are checked. The terminal illness will already be checked. Then output design, there's nothing much to do there. This is pretty much just you're showing them how do you want the PDF to look like, the output, you know? So for me, I want them to just add the White Transamerica. You can select whatever picture you want. If this makes sense, it's truly a big deal to you. So let me show a little bit how the PDF look like if you were to do the PDF, okay? So I select the cover photo bike. When I go down here, so this is the table that we're going to be using, but when you go at the bottom on the cover page, you'll notice here, you have a bike, picture of someone on a bike, you see? But it states your agent's name, your email, agent ID, you know, and so on and so forth. The illustration, 32-year-old female in Missouri, 50-50 allocations, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the whole PDF. And right here, you have a bar on the left side that, or every time you go to a different page or a different section, the bar drops as well. So if I want to go back to the top of the page and I don't want to like scroll up, all I have to do is click on the page that I want on the top, on the left side right here. You see? But as I said, we're not going to worry about PDF. We're going to stick on values, okay, when it comes to output. All right. So let's get started. Miss Hortensia.
Yes.
So right here, this is our ledger for the illustration on how this account works. So I'm going to go over different benefits of how this account works, okay? So the first thing I want you to notice on the bottom left corner where it says $1 million, do you see that? This
Yes.
is the amount of coverage that this person has applied for.
1
So,
million.
and before anything, the first thing is what? They have to qualify for $1 million policy. Once they qualify for $1 million policy, that is when they can start. But in this policy, as I told you earlier, they can actually save some money in here. So based on their age or the client's age, this person 32-year-old, they are gonna give a prorated premium. Okay, that hey, if you contribute 7,800 every single year, this will be enough for you to save some money, at the same time cover the cost of the policy. All right. So the reason why they're contributing all this money is because they're actually saving money in their policy. All right. If they want to put more money, yes, they can, as long as it's not more than $54,000 in a year. Okay. It cannot be more than this. So we're going to go over the numbers, but before we do that, I want you to notice the column here that says year represents the year of the policy, like how old the policy is. Age is the age of the client. Premium is how much money they've contributed over the years. Withdrawal is how much money they can take out as a withdrawal. It's going to reflect over here. And if they take out money as a loan, it's going to reflect right here. Cumulative premium is how much money total that they've contributed into this account over the years. Cumulative premium. Policy value is like saying a mini savings account that's sitting in there. So this is where the compound interest will be happening. This is where they're going to be getting interest. Okay, this is their actual dollar amount. Cash surrender value is how much money they can take out. Okay, as you can see, the first 3 years, this person cannot take anything because they let the money grow first before they have access to some money. Okay, death benefit is how much money can be taken out on an event this person passes away. So that's what these different columns represent. Let me give an example. Year number one, this person contributed 7,800. Okay, and that is a cumulative or total amount of contribution of 7,800 the first year. Out of 7,800, they remove 6,200 and they put it inside their what? Their little savings account that's sitting in this account, right? Called the policy value. And this is the money that's going to be generating compound interest. The same year, they cannot access anything, Hortensia. They have to wait. But God forbid anything happens to them, then $1 million plus the 6,200 goes to their family. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Now that you've understood that, let's go ahead and look at our first benefit of this portfolio. The first benefit, why do people put money in here, is because of compound interest. Okay. So as you can tell, your premiums don't really change. Whatever age you lock it in, see, this person is 32, they locked it at 32. Even when they're the age of 72, they say pretty much contribute the same, does not increase. Oftentimes when people have 10 policies, the biggest challenge is what? Their premiums change, they increase with age. But this one is locked in. So they contributed this amount of money for less than 5 years. Okay. That means they've contributed a total of $39,000. Do you see that? But how much is in their savings?
35,280.
And how much can they take out?
19,449.
$19,000. Awesome. Now, do you have a calculator with you, like on your phone?
Yes.
All right. So I want you to calculate, assuming you're going to put 6,291 on your regular savings account at the bank, where you're getting interest of 0%, it's not growing. So you're going to do 6,291 times 5 and see how much you're supposed to have if it was not compounding at a higher rate. 6291 times 5.
$31,445.
31,000, but this is
Mm-hmm.
5. That means
Yeah.
this person has almost $4,000 more
Mm-hmm.
compared to if the money was just sitting in regular savings. And that is the power of compounding. That means this person was getting interest on the principal and interest on the prior interest. So everything was making money for them. Now, on this particular illustration, as you can see here, it's running at a rate of 7%. The reason why it does that is because in the last 20 years, this particular portfolio averaged about 7 to 8%. Okay. All right. Now let's see. Let's say they keep contributing up to year 15. Okay. How much have they contributed total?
117,000.
How much is in their savings?
144,000.
How much can they take out?
144,000.
Okay. Let's keep moving. Now, they keep contributing, let's say, up to the age of 65. Okay. How much would they have contributed total?
257,000.
How much is in their savings?
629,000.
How much can they take out?
629,000.
Exactly. Now, fast forward, this person is 75. Okay. How much have they contributed total?
335,000.
How much is in their savings?
1,187,000.
And how much can they take out?
1,187,000.
So exactly around 1.1, right? So
Yeah.
this is a person, and literally, even if let's say they do it at 74, this person already at a 1.1 million. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because this money is still compounding. As a matter of fact, this account can keep going all the way to 121. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
It could go continuous like until infinity pretty much. So if people leave 121, then they're impossible. They just get their money while they're still alive, and that's it. All right. So another benefit of this account is something called probate court-free death benefit. Okay, you can write it down. Probate court-free death benefit. So let's say this person, God forbid, they pass away, and they have $1.1 million right here. This is year 13. They're still young, unfortunately, just died early. They have a death benefit of 1.1 million. This money goes straight to their beneficiaries without going through probate. Do you remember when we talked about probate?
Yes.
What was probate?
Um, I think it was like a court where when someone passes away, all their accounts get frozen
Mm-hmm.
and then all their assets are used to pay all the debts that they owe.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's what probate is. So instead of them freezing this $1 million, it goes
Mm-hmm.
straight to the family. So family doesn't have to wait for probate to be over before they can get some money. Also, the way, another way of looking at it, you see they have 117,000 here. If
Yeah.
this was sitting in a regular savings account or 401k or Roth IRA or whatever, so this money
Uh-huh.
is supposed to what? Go to probate to pay for that person's debt and taxes. But instead, guess what happens? This money is combined with that $1 million and everything pays out as death benefit. So it's a way of also saving their own money or protecting
Mm.
their own money from probate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. The third benefit of this account is something called tax-free death benefit. So this money, when it pays out to the family, no taxes are involved, especially the fact that it's skipping probate. So now estate taxes. Now, why is that a big deal? Again, I don't know if you can see my screen, but this person here have contributed 100K, but they have 117,000. That means they've gained some kind of interest, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But instead of them paying taxes on the interest, because it's going to pay out as death benefit, probate free, also it becomes tax free. So that's a big deal. Because if
Mm-hmm.
they had this money, once again, in any other accounts out there, let's say the 401k, the regular checking account, savings account, CD, stocks, then since it's subjected to probate, it's also going to be subjected to capital gain taxes and estate taxes. You see? All right. Now, Another thing or another benefit of this account, I want you to shift your eyes down here on the bottom left corner. Is something called terminal illness. Now, what is terminal illness? On event, this person is told they only have 12 months to live, okay? They're supposed to die. They only have 12 months or less to live. They can come here and withdraw up to 100% of this money. They can claim this money to insurance company and say, hey, I've qualified for $1 million policy. I'm not dead, but I'm terminally ill. I don't want to leave my money until when I'm dead. I want to use it while I'm still alive. They can get up to 100%, all right, of their money. Now, what if they're not terminally ill? What if they're critically ill? Critically ill means what? On an event, this person has a heart attack, stroke, cancer, end-stage renal disease. They're on dialysis, meaning they need some kind of, blood transfusion or whatever, to clean their kidneys, whatever, that's dialysis, right? Major organ transplant, like they need a kidney transplant, lung transplant, liver transplant, those were usually very, very sick. They are paralyzed, they are blind, they have Alzheimer's, right? Then guess what? Or even if they have AIDS, then they can decide to claim some money to the insurance company. And you know what they say? Oh, I am not dead yet, but I'm very sick. I'm critically ill. And I want to take at least some amount of money from my account and use it while I'm still alive. Hortensia, they are allowed to take up to 90% of this money right here. So it could be 200K, 300K, 400K. Now, let me ask you a question, Hortensia. Let's say you stop working today, right? How many days forward can you go without working in America?
Maybe 1 month.
1 month. Now, because you just didn't want to work. But what if it's due to an illness? You're in a situation where you cannot work because you're sick. Do you have an account that can replace your income, maybe for the next year or two?
No.
You see, that's where this becomes handy. This actually happened to a friend of mine. Let me give you a little story here. So a friend of mine is a cardiologist, okay, originally from Nigeria. And that guy, when I say he used to be super hardworking, went to Ivy League schools, graduated, became an interventional cardiologist, moved with his family to Maryland, bought a nice fancy multi-million, dollar home. I remember he actually put a down payment for like 100K. Wife was driving a Range Rover. He was driving this nice BMW. I'm like, yo, that's the American dream. Okay. But I don't know if you're familiar with cardiologist schedules. Those people work a lot. Okay. So literally sometimes even if they are off work, they're not really off work because they have to be on call. So once again, it was like this weekend, he had gone because somebody had a heart attack or something. So he had gone to do a procedure like at 2 a.m. So after he got the procedure done that morning, when he was driving back to work, he got into an accident. Somebody was coming drunk and hit him on a car. I mean, he didn't die, but then he was paralyzed. So they had to take him to the hospital. He almost died, but he didn't die. So took him to the hospital. He was there for the whole month. Wife had to go and file for what? Disability for him so that they can get some money because she was a stay-home wife and the guy was a breadwinner. She had 3 kids. So she had to go claim some money to take care of the household while the husband is getting better at the hospital. So she was able to get about 60% of that money. Because, a lot of people don't know that with disability, Hortensia, you can only get up to 60% of your income. So that's what happens. But think about it. This lady was saying they had $6,000 of mortgage. This is a big home. All right. $6,000 of mortgage. At the same time, they had to pay for like insurance, take care of the kids, utilities, and all these other things. So it was quite expensive. So, but she still managed, she tried to managed and be able to do that the first month. The second month, she had to go ask for money again because the guy was still at the hospital. So sure enough, they gave her disability. Okay. The third month, Hortensia, she went again because this guy was still at the hospital. So sure, she got that disability. The fourth month, oh my gosh, they called this lady in the office. Yeah, the chief called and said, listen, Dr. So-and-so is one of our colleagues, and he is the most respected doctor in this hospital. But the problem is we need some workforce. It's been 3 months now that he's sick. He's not like getting better fast enough for us, but we really, really need people to work. So because we have so many surgeries scheduled and so many procedures scheduled, we really need people. So we are forced to hire somebody else. So we currently have a physician that already interviewed and we're hiring him. But I promise you, as soon as your husband gets better, we're going to give him his job back. Do you know what happened, Hortensia? This guy
He
was
got
fired.
fired. Mhm.
So when people get fired, Hortensia, do they have medical insurance if they're depending on their jobs? Do
No,
they have disability?
no.
Okay. So what happened? This lady was like impossible. Like she just went crazy. The hospital called her like about 5 days later and they say, well, since your husband is stable, we're going to have to move him to a long-term care facility. Hortensia, stable does not mean you're better, right? Stable means you're not better, you're not worse, you're just stable. But sometimes they'll do that. You know why? Because if you don't have insurance, why are you occupying a bed? So they had to discharge this guy and take him to a long-term care facility. But the issue is that the long-term care facility, they had to look at his income. He had money in his 401k, money in his IRA, Roth IRA, and Roth 401k. This guy was doing good. They have a house. He has these two fancy cars. He had a vacation home in Florida. So guess what? All these things had to go so they could accommodate him because they were not even sure if he could even stay, how long he was going to stay there. And on an event you're supposed to stay longer, there is no way Medicaid could pay for it. So the wife was forced to use and sell all these things. So she had to go and take a CNA course. Actually, she did home health first and then to become a CNA later. And then they had to move to an apartment. She was crying. She said, I wish I could just have my husband at home and take care of him. But she had to work 16 hours to compensate on certain expenses to take care of the three kids. So she couldn't have time to take care of her husband and the kids and work 16 hours a day. So the husband had to stay in the nursing home. Now, the sad part is this guy was not getting better there. He developed some kind of depression because he's there not brain dead, thinking that, hey, I'm an educated person. How did this happen to me? I am a cardiologist. I'm a doctor. Somebody's wiping my butt because I could not take care of my finances and nobody told me about this. So it was sad. It was really sad. So from depression, before you know, he's taking all these medications. His liver started causing problems. His kidney started causing problems. It was just bad. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have him today. He died after 2 years and a half in that nursing home. But these are things that I always tell people. When people sit on that hospital bed, what do you think the biggest worry is? Do you think it's them getting better or their family being okay and their kids?
Their family being okay.
It's usually finances. But what if this guy had a policy like this? Or a $2 million policy or $3 million policy. For Christ's sake, he was a cardiologist. He had $1 million home. Do you think he could not afford a $5 million policy?
He could have.
So today that he's not here, or when he was sitting at the hospital, did the wife had to work to take care of the kids? No. She could have stayed home and take care of him and the kids. So this is how people pay a price of ignorance because they don't understand how these things work. You know, when they talk about the wealth gap, Potencia, it doesn't mean making a lot of money. The wealth gap is about protection. Wealthy people make a lot of money because they know how to protect their money, but middle class don't know how to protect their money. That's why we remain middle class. So long story short, on an event, the person is critically ill. They can take up to 90% of this money right here. 90%. Or when they're chronically ill, let's say they cannot do any two activities of daily living. Let's say they cannot bathe themselves, transfer themselves, feed themselves, dress themselves, for a period of at least 3 months or more, anything that's considered chronic, like as far as activities, then guess what? For a period of 3 months, right? 90 days, they can take up to 90% of this money as well. So that is a big deal. So when we talk about income protection, that's what we're talking about. So you don't have to get a policy that you have to die for somebody else to benefit, but you can also benefit from an account like this. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that means our other benefit is chronic illness, which I already talked about it. That on an event person is critically, chronically ill, they can access up to 90% of this. Critical illness means all those illnesses I've talked about, like heart attack, stroke, cancer, stuff like that. But chronic illness is when you cannot perform at least 2 activities of daily living for a period of 3 months or more. Okay. Now, another benefit of this account is access to cash. Okay. Access to cash. Now, let's say you have contributed a total of 117,000, right? How much is in your savings by then?
144,000.
And how much can you take out?
144,000.
144,000. So let's say you want to remove money from this account. There are 2 ways you can do this. You can either remove it as a withdrawal, which is going to come from your own savings, or you can remove it as a loan that's going to come up from your death benefit. Let's start by removing it as a withdrawal. If let's say you want to run a project, let's say you want to take $100,000 because you saw a foreclosed property. Now you want to do Airbnb. So you want to remove that 100K, right? To go and buy a house. So you can come here and say, hey, insurance company, I have 144,000, give me 100K. Fine, they'll give it to you. But that is going to be considered what? A withdrawal. So if you withdraw 100K from your 144, how much do you have left?
44,000.
44,000. That means you have actually reduced the amount of money that's going to be compounding for you. Because if they give you 10% here interest, then it's going to be applied only on the remaining 44,000. Does that make sense? Instead of the entire 144. And that is if you do this as a withdrawal. But since you're doing it for, let's say, investment purposes, you know that, hey, I'm going to just bored. I just want to remove this money for investment and then I can always return it. Guess what? They're also giving you an option of removing the same amount of money, 100K, as a loan. But if you remove it as a loan, it's going to come from here, okay? The death benefit. So instead of coming from your withdrawal, from your policy value, it's going to come up from what? Your death benefit. So what you're pretty much saying is, hello, insurance company, you said when I die, $1 million is going to go to my family. I'm not dead, and that money just sitting there. How can I, I can just borrow 100K from the $1 million, go buy that particular real estate, while my money is still making money for me, and then I can always return it. Okay. So if you borrow that 100K, all right, it's going to come from here. So you get to do whatever you got to do with it. And then your 144 is not touched. So it's still making you money. Okay. Now, when you borrow 100K and it's built, you have, let's say, an apartment or whatever that you bought. Then later you're going to have to, you're paying it back. Let's say you decide to pay it back. That 100K, you're going to have to pay it back with 2%. Okay. But here's a quick question for you. When you borrowed money from this account, who did you technically borrow this money from?
Myself.
Yourself, exactly.
Mhm.
So if you return it even with 2%, who do you return that money to?
Myself.
Your own death benefit, right? Plus, the 2% also goes to your own death benefit. But let me tell you what people do, Hortensia, because they don't know. They could have the same amount of money sitting in their 401k, in their bank account, whatever. And then they go and get a loan at the bank, 100K to buy a property. And then the bank has to charge them interest. So they return that 100K plus the interest of 8%, 9%, or whatever the interest the bank wants them to do. And the interest is compounding. Meanwhile, if they could have put the same amount of money in here, they already have a leverage of how they can leverage their own death benefit on here, as you can see, to use that money to go and actually get that investment done. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
All right. So that is how, when you look at big companies like JCPenney and Starbucks and all these other Walt Disney's, they're able to franchise faster because they don't just put money in the bank, but rather they put money in here, let it compound, they can borrow against it, open a franchise, put it back, and they calculate all that. All the interest keeps coming in here and it's compounding. Banks do the same thing as well. Does that make sense? So remember, with these kind of accounts, you can do it in a big corporation like a bank, or you can do it in a smaller corporation like businesses, or you can do it in a personal level, you know? So it's all about understanding how you can leverage your own death benefit, you know, and be able to do investments and other things. Any question on that particular area? Great. Now, another benefit of this account is something called autopilot. All right. Autopilot. So I'm going to go back to case design. And then autopilot means contributing for a period of time and then letting the policy run itself. So I'm going to click on policy design. And then I'm going to go to the contribution. Our contribution is what? Is your target, right? So under target premium, I'm going to click on the calendar. And then I'm going to put 30 years. Okay. That's it. That's all I'm doing. And then I'm going to calculate. All right. Now, Hortensia, let's say this person contributes in this policy for, let's say, 30 years. Okay. That means they've contributed a total of $2,034,000. They have $5,000 sitting in their savings. Okay. This money in here is going to be what? Compounding, correct? Because there's still money, even though they're not adding any more money. As you can see, it says 000. But whatever is sitting in the savings will still be getting interest. So as it's compounding, guess what? A small portion of this money is going to be used to cover the cost of the policy. And that's how the policy is able to run itself. So this can run itself all the way to 121 as well. At this point, this person has about what? $11 million, right? If they leave that far. But just so you know, the policy is not canceled just because this person stopped making payments. Okay. Now, you go back to case design here. And then we are going to change. Let's say they contribute for 15 years. Okay. Contributed for 15 years. Can you see my screen still here? All right. So
Yes.
15 years they've contributed. Now they've contributed 117,000, they have 144. Same thing. It's gonna be compounding. Compounding. They don't put any more money, right? Or whatever's in the savings, still compounding. Covers the cost of insurance, run itself. This can go all the way also to 121. They won't have 11 million, but it says 6 million, right? Why? Because they contributed for a shorter time compared to the other one. All right. Now, what if they want to contribute for, let's say they have an emergency and they could only contribute for very little time. Let's say they were doing for 7 years. Okay. If that is the case, then it's how it's going to look. All right. So I'm going to click here. All right. For 7 years, see that? They've contributed to 54,000, but they're 52,000. Instead of it canceling, guess what? Grow some interest, keeps going. And this one can go all the way down to age 86, oh, year 54. Okay. However, they contributed just for 7 years. So that means if this person stopped contributing because they lost a job, they have 40 years to find a job. You get the point? But there's no way someone's going to be 40 years without a job. In 2 years, I'm sure they found a job. They can keep contributing, keep saving their money. But Hortensia, what if it's more serious than just losing a job? What if this person was in a bad accident like that doctor, that they're paralyzed? At least the policy is still active. So they can always come back here and claim money from that $1 million, right? And that's what's called a life insurance asset, because it's always going to pay you. Whether it be compound interest, saving you on taxes, or when you fall sick, income protection. So there's always a way of it paying you. Asset means money in, liability means money out. That's why this one is called a life insurance asset. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, another thing also I want you to understand is when people lose their jobs, Hortensia, the biggest challenge is not this policy. The biggest challenge is this person had a mortgage. This person had rent. This person has kids. This person has a car. So who's going to be paying for all of his bills and they don't have income coming in? You get the point? So while a lot of people are so worried sometimes about, oh, how am I going to pay for the policy? They forget that they need to really be worried, how can I pay my light bill? Because they're going to cut off the lights. Can you tell the landlord, I cannot pay rent for 2 years because I don't have a job. Do they care?
No.
No, they kick you out. But here they care. Okay, so this person has all this while to go find a job, all this while to find a job, right?
Mhm.
Does that make sense? That's why
Yes.
it's powerful. Okay. Autopilot. It's a way to protect this policy. Okay. Unintended person cannot pay, goes to autopilot, they can always come back and continue payments. All right. Awesome. Another benefit of this account that I'm always like, whoa, I wish I knew this sooner, is there's so much flexibility in how you can contribute. You can either do it annually, you can put a lump sum, or you can do 7 pay. So let me show you. So let's say we are doing it annually, okay? Now I want you to write these numbers down for me. So I decided to just contribute annually. I'm back to the 7,800, okay? So as you can see, the first year that's what I've contributed, but how much is my policy value? I want you to write 6,291, year one. How much can I take out?
0.
Mhm. By year 5, how much is in my savings?
35,000.
And how much can I take out?
19,449.
Awesome. Now, fast forward, by the time this person is 65, how much is in their savings by then?
629,000.
And how much can they take out?
629,000.
Okay, so you got those numbers down?
Yes.
Year 65. Okay.
Mhm.
Now we are going to compare on another way of contributing. So let's say this person, yes, is doing annually, but they have an extra $3,000, $5,000, $6,000. They're just sitting aside and say, you know what, I just want to put it in here so I can take advantage of compound interest. So let's take an example of 20,000, okay, in a year. They decide to put a one-time lump sum of $20,000, okay? So that means year one, they put 27,000, as you can see here, right? So that's 20, in their savings, gonna have 26,000, correct? That means every extra dollar amount that you have goes in the savings. But
Mhm.
guess what? They don't have to wait. Year one, they can take out $6,000. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas on the other side, on the other illustration, they had to wait, right? It was zero. Okay. 5 years later, here they have $61,000. How much would they have had on the first way of contribution?
It was like 35,000.
85,000. And how much can they take out here
45,000.
in comparison to how much?
19,000.
All right. Fast forward, this person is 65 years old. Okay. How much do they have here?
771,000.
And how much can they take out
771,000.
in comparison to what was on the other numbers you wrote down?
62,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
629, right?
Oh yeah,
So it's
629,000.
right.
Sorry.
So it's about almost $130,000 more or something like that.
Mhm.
Just by putting a one-time $20,000 at retirement, they can take tax-free. So there is power in taking advantage of compound interest. So I always tell people all the time, you have extra bonuses at work, you have extra money you want to put aside, you can add it on here so that it's compounding for you. Somebody the other day was like, oh, I can put money in my CD at the bank. CD at the bank, yes, maybe they'll give you 4%. But remember, inflation is about what, 8%? And the CD, you got to pay tax. But if you're compounding in here, you don't have to pay tax. Okay. The third way of contributing in this portfolio, all right, there's something called 7pay. That is a maximum contribution allowed. So do you see this number right here, the 54,000
Yes.
right here? So let's say, Hortensia, you had an extra stream of income. Let's say you had a business, okay? Yes, you're a nurse, but you also have a business. And then you decide to put all your money in here because, I mean, all this extra money in here because you want to, once again, not take advantage of compound interest. So 7pay is the maximum allowed, okay? So let's assume you do 7pay for 7 years because you have extra money. So I'm going to calculate. Wow, you see that? So they would put 54,000 for 7 years. Now, year one, they put 54,000. How much is in their savings?
53,000.
How much can they take out?
33,000.
So literally, if they wanted to buy a house or put a down payment, they could still borrow money from year one while their own money is still growing for them, correct? But what about year five? How much do they have in here?
303,000.
And how much can they access?
287,000.
If they wanted to pay off a house, do you think they can pay off a house?
Yes.
Absolutely. Or let's say they were saving money for 7 years and they want to buy a house cash. Do you think they can buy a house cash?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You see that? Now,
Mhm.
instead of people overpaying by compound interest, this is the piece they don't know. They could have waited a little bit, maybe 5 to 6 years, make a lot of money, put in a compound interest account, and even buy the homes cash. That means every 5 to 6 years, they'll be buying new houses.
Wow.
You see? Now, fast forward year 65. This person is 65. Now, they stop contributing, right? But at
Mhm.
65, as long as the money is compounding, how much do they have at retirement?
Oh, 2 million.
$2 million that they can take out tax-free. You see that?
Yeah.
So once again, there is power in compounding. Now, what if this person also does 7 pay, but maybe they didn't own a business, so they just want to do it, because they have just money on the side and they do it for 2 years. Okay, so this is what I did, 7 pay for 2 years. Okay. So at that point, they would have contributed to 108, right? So year one, they're 54,000, 53,000, their savings, 33,000, correct? By year five, how much is sitting in their savings?
126,000.
How much can they take out?
111,000.
Now, this is not as much as the other one, right? Because they did not put a lot of money, but still they have access to 100K. They can decide to even buy that Airbnb cash, the foreclosed home. Fast
Mhm.
forward, by the time this person is 65, they're getting out retirement, right? Age of 65. How much has this person contributed? Total is 108, but how much do they have in their savings?
561,000.
And how much can they take out?
561,000.
Do you see that?
Mhm.
Nice. So I'm sure you have learned that there is power in adding more money, right?
Yeah.
So that you can compound your money. So it's nice if you're able to max fund your policy upfront. Okay. Now, another benefit of this account is when it comes to retirement. So I'm going to go ahead and change this, bring it back to target. Okay. And then I'm going to change, so I'm going to say, let's say this person contributed for 41 years. And then the index accounts are going to be the same, 50-50. But here we are going to take out some money this time. Okay. So this is when you talk about retirement, income option at retirement. Okay. $50,000. All right. And then the riders are already there. Okay. There's nothing else to change on output design. I don't want to calculate. Okay. Now, this person, as you can see, we are back to 7,800. They've been contributing for 41 years. Okay. 41 years. At this point, this person has contributed to the 320 and they have $1 million in their savings. They can call the insurance company and say, hey, I have $1 million, okay, in my account. I want to use $50,000 every single year as supplemental income at retirement, knowing that they can get this money tax-free. So what the company is going to do is say, oh yeah, you have a total of $1 million, but your total contribution was 320. So we are going to give you 50,000 up to what you've contributed, 320 as a
Mhm.
withdrawal. But anything that's above 320, remember they have $1 million in there. Anything above 320 is going to be considered interest. If we give you interest, also the withdrawal, you're going to have to pay taxes. So to avoid paying taxes, that is when they give you that interest as a loan. So they're coding it as a loan. So you are actually loaning from your own what? From your own portfolio, from your own money. And this is a way for you not to pay taxes. So by the time, let's say this person dies at age of 101, you'd have collected at least $1 million, right? Plus the 320, correct? However, they still have 940,000 that can still go to their family's death benefit. Wow, did you catch that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, another thing also, since you are removing this money tax-free, guess what? That means this person also can get the Social Security tax-free, especially if they don't have any other stream of income. Because with Social Security, only if you have taxable money, right, at retirement, that's when they're going to have to tax your Social Security. As long as you have tax-free money, then these are not count as an investment when it comes to security. So you can actually get this money tax-free. And your Social Security is not, it doesn't count on your Social Security income. All right. Why is this a big deal? The other things that we cannot illustrate, example, let's say a person has a lawsuit and they have $500,000 sitting in there. They have this money protected. It's not count against lawsuits. Okay. They have 353,000. They filed bankruptcy for whatever reason. This money does not count against bankruptcy either. Okay, so it's a protection tool. It's a very, very good protection tool. That's why I was telling an example of when you listen to all these billionaires sometimes and say, oh, somebody filed bankruptcy, and then they're still a billionaire. Now you're wondering, where did they put their money? Right? Okay, awesome. Another benefit of this account is something called $1 Million Baby. Okay, $1 Million Baby. Now, sometimes people may wonder, how come wealthy people start these accounts for their kids when they're little? Well, they do this because once again, they can get to compound their money and also has tax favor. So I'm going to go back here for the insured. So let's say this person is 0 years old and they're female. Okay. They're female, they're 0 years old. And then when it comes to target premium, you're going to be contributing target, but up to age of 65. Okay. And then when it comes to index accounts, nothing's going to change. Income at targeting, here we're going to change it a little bit. We're going to say, what if they take out money from age of 21 to age of 21 and then take out money again? Same thing, withdraw a loan from age 66, right? Because they contributed at the age of 65. So this is from age 66. So the thing is, how would this account look like? When it comes to riders, now kids don't get riders because riders is for income protection. And most kids don't have what? Don't have income. So let's calculate. All right. Now, the minimum issue age for juvenile policies is 15 days old. So as long as the child's at least 15 days, they can have this kind of account. All right. Now, let me show you how it works. So let's say, as you can see here, this is a brand new baby. Okay. $1 Million baby. They get $1 million policy and they get approved. All right. That means year one, the family or the parents contributed to $3,600. That means the baby is saving around $2,500. All right. Fast forward, by the time this baby is 18 years old, okay, if the parent don't add any more money, then guess what? They would have contributed a total of 66,000. They have 85,000. Potencia, they can use this money for college. This child can use this money for college expenses. They can use it for tuition. They can use it for anything else other than college. They can use it to buy their first car. They can do so many things with it. Okay. And also the good thing is they can still apply for a free scholarship from the government because it does not count as an investment. If they had the same amount of money, let's say in 529, then guess what? Then it will be counted as an investment. It could affect their qualification for FAFSA. That's how you see some kids only qualify for partial scholarships, while certain kids, they qualify for, a full ride. And some, they're only told to only, take a student loan, right? Now, fast forward, when this person is 21 or 20, they have like 100K. They can say, you know what? Instead of borrowing, I also have an option to withdraw. So this child withdraws $50,000. What for? I don't know, to buy a car, maybe to start their first business, put a down payment for a house, or maybe pay for a wedding. You know, sometimes we don't even think of things like this, right? Does a child have to suffer because we suffered? No. So these are things that, the child can benefit. Now, of course, after they finish school, they have up to $30,000 that they can put in this account. It's called a 7 pay. 30,000. But what if they don't put more than 3,600? That's okay. By the time this child is 40 years old, they would have contributed 97,000, they have 300K. By the time this very baby is 65 years old, they would have contributed 189,000, they have 1.4 million. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
If they want to remove money from their portfolio, okay, same thing. They give back to them up to 189,000 that they've contributed. They return all the money back to them. But guess what? This account was compounding for such a long time. So they get to use all these interests, okay? It's given to them as a loan, but they're loaning from their own money and they don't have to pay it back, okay? Boom. That means they've
Wow.
collected 1.6 million over the years. And plus they're what? They're 189. But guess what? They still have 3.7 million that can go to the next generation. Now, Hortensia, this is what we mean by legacies. When you have an account for your child that's compounding, that means you're also covering at least 2 generations. If everybody in the household gets this as soon as they are born, that is how the Rockefellers were able to compound money after the 7th generation covered, because of compound interest. Okay. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
gave an example for $1 million. This is the biggest coverage a child can have, right? The child cannot have more than $1 million. But also, I do understand that every parent is different out there. So depending, so I'm going to come here on income a little bit, income, and clear this so I can show you here something else. So let's say, okay, this parent cannot do $1 million policy yet, but they can contribute, let's say, a 500,000 policy. So if this is where they want to start, they still can. So it's going to work something like this. So they contribute a total 1,840, and they have 1,200 in their savings. Fast forward, by the time this child is 18 years old, they'd have contributed 33,000 and the child has 40,000. If they want to put more, they can. Remember, they have up to $15,000 here, 7 pay. But let's say this child is 65 years old. That means they've contributed 119. They're still $1 million baby. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if the parent says, I'm a single mom, I have so many kids, da, 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 da. Can I just start with something small? Absolutely. They can start with one of the smallest, right, coverages. This is 250,000. When they do 250 coverage, now for this child, annual contribution is what? 920. You see?
Mm-hmm.
920, they have 481 growing. Fast forward, by the time this child is at the age of 18, they have $16,000 already. Now, let me ask you a question, Hortensia. How many 18-year-olds do you know that have $16,000 sitting in their savings right now?
Not many.
Exactly. What about adults?
Even adults.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, same game. Now, by the time this person is 40, they have like $95,000 sitting in there. By the time this person is 65, they've contributed 59,000, right? But how much do they have in their savings?
Wow, almost 500,000.
Almost 500,000, 452,000. You see? So that
Mm-hmm.
is the power of compound interest. It's very, very powerful too, but he who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Now, do you have any questions before I proceed?
No.
All right. So, as I said earlier, when we do these accounts, okay, not everybody qualifies, just so you know. All right. So the perfect accounts for kids, excellent accounts for adults, but unfortunately, not everybody qualifies. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do your little analysis, all right? Just to look at the numbers to see where you're at. But before I do that, let me stop sharing for a second. And before I do that, I do have some few questions for you, okay? Before we even do the analysis. So Hortensia, has your driver's license ever been suspended?
No,
Okay. Do you have a speeding ticket or driving violations? Have you ever had any of those?
no,
No driving violations or speeding tickets?
no,
Okay. All right. Have you ever had COVID?
yes,
All right. Were you hospitalized?
no.
Okay. How long ago was it?
Um, 2022?
Oh, it's been a while. All right. And of
Mhm.
course, you're negative. All right. So no hospitalization. Are you currently on any medications?
No,
Okay. No medications at all. All right.
just vitamins.
Awesome. So you recently had a baby. Any complications at all?
No,
No? Awesome. That's great. The last question is, what is your residency status? Are you a U.S. citizen or permanent resident? What's your
I'm a
status?
US citizen.
U.S. citizen? Oh, that's much easier. Because with permanent residents, they literally only have two companies right now that accepts people who are either permanent resident or they're having issues with their, visas and stuff. But yeah, so that's a good one. Since you have no medical issues, you're not on any medications, vitamins don't count as medications, we can go ahead and do our analysis, okay? So we'll do our analysis. Let me share my screen again. I just wanted to ask you that. All right. So I've logged into my WFG again on the top right corner. I click on menu and then I do recruiting and selling, products and providers, sales resources. Okay. Sales resources. So here I see crump. I'm going to click on crump and then click at continue. And then I am going to click on transaction center. And then I'm going to click on coverage calculator. All right, awesome. So I will skip the first question. This one, usually I don't ask clients this question. Okay, no asking about funeral costs and stuff. So I'll go straight to this question. All right, Hortensia, let's get started.
Mhm.
Hortensia, do you have any mortgage that you're currently working on?
Yes.
How much do you have left to pay off your mortgage?
I'll say 144,000.
144,000. Um, what about debt, like student loans, car loans,
I have a car loan
a car loan? Okay.
and some credit cards.
How much do you have left to pay off your car?
20,000.
20,000. Okay. What about your credit cards?
I'll say 4,000.
4,000. What about student loans?
I don't have any student loans.
Any medical
I just
bills?
no.
All
Oh
right.
yes. Oh, when I just gave a baby, I have like 6,000 for the hospital bill.
For the hospital bill? Okay. What about, let's see. So no car loans. You have a little student loans, a little credit cards, medical bills, any other kind of debt at all.
No,
All right. So in the numbers of children requiring college funding, you have a baby. So it's a 0-year-old, but up one. So when she goes to college, maybe this is something I've not even thought of, but would you want them to go to a private college or public college?
private.
Private? Okay, I like that. All right. Now, what is your approximated monthly income before taxes?
10,000.
Okay, $10,000. How long do you see yourself working before you retire?
Ooh, maybe 20 more years.
20 more years? How old are you?
32.
32. So you see yourself retiring at 52?
Yes.
Because 32 plus 20 is 52, right?
Yes.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking is because the traditional age at retirement is 65. Unless you've planned your finances differently, then that's okay. But these are just projections, okay?
Hmm.
All right. So I will leave it at 20. Do you currently have life insurance? Oh, you said you have one at work, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What about family savings? Do you currently save for the family? Like maybe regular savings, checking account,
Yeah,
CD,
we have a saving account.
bank. All right. Roughly how much do you maintain in your savings?
5,000.
Okay. Do you do stocks and Bitcoin, any of those things?
Yes,
How much roughly do you have in your stocks?
like 30,000.
30,000. What about Bitcoin, any other variable accounts, mutual funds?
My husband does the Bitcoin, so I'm not sure how
Okay.
much we have.
So no, so your spouse is gonna have to calculate that separately. So this one
Oh,
is
okay,
mainly for
got it.
you. Okay. This is mainly
Mhm.
for you because your husband has his own risk and you have his own risk, even though like you're doing combined income, but the
Mhm.
risk is because like you want to see how much risk you're having on each other.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'll leave 30,000. Do you currently save for retirement at all? Like 401k, 403bs? I think you only mentioned 401k and Roth IRA. I'm not sure if you have anything else.
No, just those two.
Roughly how much do you maintain in your retirement savings?
Like how much I
Yeah,
have
just
currently there?
roughly. Yeah, just rough estimates.
I'm gonna say 150.
Okay, so
Current.
this is 150. And then your spouse gonna be differently. All right. So these are projections for four-year college, Hortensia. You'll need to, for this child, right? It's gonna cost them at least 112,000. Right? If they go for four-year college, this is what it means by, approximation there. If they go for four-year public college, private college, it's going to be 236,000, the cost for all the 4 years. Okay, these are the
Mhm.
projections. Assuming inflation rate is at least 3%, meaning cost of living goes up at least 3% every single year. Okay. And also with college inflation being at least 5%, that means your money always has to be in a portfolio growing on average of 6% or even more. So you're able to beat inflation and be really having that money growth. Does that make sense? But right
Mhm.
now, you told me you have your regular checking, your regular savings. You already know that the money grows at zero. Also, in your 401k Roth IRA, yes, you could get interest about that or even more, but it's gonna be what? It's gonna be compounding. Okay, it's gonna be compounding. Just a second. Let's see here. All right, Hortensia. So these right here are actually projections, okay? So they're saying if your child goes to a four-year public college, it will cost about 112,000 for the 4 years. If they go for private college, there's going to be 236,000. Considering inflation is about 3%, meaning cost of living goes badly 3% every single year, okay? College inflation is 5%. That means your money has to sit in an account growing at least 6% or even more, compounding so that you're able to beat inflation, right?
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned that you have money in your 401k Roth IRA. Now, that is a variable account, right? So sometimes, yes, maybe you're beating inflation, but then you also have oftentimes where you're losing money. Money that's sitting in your savings account, yes, it looks like it's safe in there. However, you could still be losing money on an event, right? Inflation is like super, super high, or even like literally just you not growing it and just sitting in there. So 6% or even more, that's when it makes sense when you're compounding. Sounds good? All
Mhm.
right. So based on what you told me, like your mortgage, your debt, the amount of money that you think you're going to be making the next 20 years, your risk right now, as we speak, is about $2.4 million. Okay.
Mhm.
And this is after we've minus your savings and you've done a good job saving. But that's why we need to put your money in accounts that are compounding. And that's why we educate people about this so you're able to do that. Now, 2.4 million means what? God forbid something happens to you today. God forbid, let's say you pass away. This is how much the risk that you're leaving your child and your spouse.
Mm.
But what if you fall sick, you don't die, and you're in a position where you cannot work? This is exactly how much risk you're leaving to your spouse and your child, right? So I'm going to email you this number so you can just have it as a copy. So what is your email?
Hortensia, HOTTENSIAHBEE at gmail.com.
Now, these are just approximations, right? As of now, then these numbers do change. Let's say you have more income, you have another child, you have more debt, the number's going to change, okay? I'll add my name on there. I'm going to put life insurance needs analysis. All right. All right. So you're gonna have a copy. It's gonna come to your email. But now what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this number right here and do your projection. So I'm gonna go back to the illustration right here. So I copied that number already. So let's say we'll put it on here. Let's say 2.5 based on the math. I'm just gonna like, so I can have zeros. Oh, shoot. Okay, I think we're good now. All right, so let's assume we have a face amount of 2.5, okay? We're gonna see what the target is annually, but also, I'm gonna start here from the insured part. Let's see, you are in Kansas, you said. So Kansas is KS, so Kansas. Then I want to put here Hortensia. B. And then what's your birthday?
01/01/92.
Awesome. Now, so, oh, you were just like the illustration. So, all right. So I like that. And then, so Hortensia, so this is the number that we're going to put in here based on what the calculator recommended to us. Okay. But the truth is, you start based on where you are comfortable starting. That's how it works. So we're going to look up different premiums. You select the one that you're comfortable starting with, and then we can always make those changes later.
Okay.
All right. Let's say you want to get a bigger policy or something like that in the future, you can do so. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and calculate. All right. So let's say you were to get a $2.5 million coverage. Okay. That means you need to be able to contribute $19,000 in a year. If you want to make it your own little bank in there, then you have up to $135,000 at 7 pay that you're allowed to contribute. All right. So let's look at year one. Year one, let's say you've contributed $19,000, you have $15,000 immediately in your savings growing. Okay. Fast forward, by the time you're 65 years old, okay, you'd have contributed 644, but you have $1.5 million that you can use tax-free. And what is your net worth, your death benefit? It's about
Good. 4 million.
4 million. And then here in between, of course, you can always like, borrow money against it, do your investment, do whatever. And you can always add more money. Does it make sense? Yeah. All right. So Hortensia, how do you feel about contributing $90,000 a year so that you're able to have a coverage of $2.5 million and also be able to save money that is tax-free?
It sounds very good,
Okay.
but 19,000 is a little bit too much right now.
A little bit too, oh, okay, no problem. So let's go down a little bit. And that's what I like about these accounts, because as I told you, you just start where you're comfortable and then you go down from there. So let's try 2 million. Okay, let's remove the 500 coverage and do 2 million and see if that's going to be any different. Oh, okay. So from 19 says $15,000 a year. So if you were to, let's say, contribute $15,000, $12,000 going to be in your savings. This is a $2 million policy, okay? Same thing, it's going to be compounding. Fast forward, by the time you're age of 65, you have contributed to 515, but you have 1.2 million that you can leverage tax-free. And your net worth or death benefit is about 3.2 million. Yeah. All right. So how do you feel about putting aside $15,000 a year so that you have a $2 million coverage and also have tax-free money growing for you? Do you think this is something that you can put aside comfortably for your savings?
I think I can, if I'm paying once a year. I mean, every year, just 15,000. I think I can manage that.
Yeah, just 15,000. But also, on an event, let's say you have extra money, extra income, then you can put up to 108. Okay, you can do that. So $15,000, that to me, honestly, I think that sounds good. A $2 million policy, that means if you also qualify for living benefits, that means you have up to 1.5 million for like critical or chronic illness and stuff like that you can access. Okay. All right. Awesome. So the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and do what's called a tryout application. As I told you, these things, it's not ever a guarantee that you're gonna have one, but we'll go ahead and do a tryout application just to see if you can get approved. Of course, you don't put any money, it's free, and it takes a while. It'll take you 2 weeks, it'll take you a month, sometimes it takes even longer to qualify for these kind of accounts. Okay. So once we do that, we just do the waiting game, right? You told me you're not sick. You told me, you're US citizen, you don't have any medical issues. So that should not take long. It's gonna take us like just 5 minutes. Go ahead and do that. You're currently sitting on a computer, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So that's gonna be easy. So any other question regarding that part? No?
No.
All right. And then real quick before we go to the application, can you give me the birthday of your child? I know she is a few months old, so we'll say just give me a random date. So maybe I'll just put a random
11, 20, 23. Oh.
2023.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's gonna be about the same. So let's say now since you're getting a $2 million policy, now kids cannot get a $2 million policy. Kids can only get up to $1 million policy. Okay, so I'm gonna change that to $1 million. And then let's see if she was also gonna get a policy. Okay, let's say you wanted to start something for your child as well. Because as you're saving money, your child also needs to be, having some money saved up also on the side. So for her, it's gonna be uh about, let me make sure it says female here. Just a second. Yeah, it says female. Oh, okay. There we go. It says one. Okay, no problem. There we go. So for your child, it's gonna be around 3,770 a year. Okay. So let's say she qualifies for this kind of account. That means the first year she's saving like 2,700. By the time she's 18 years old, you'd have contributed 64,000 and she has $79,000 in there. And that's if you don't put any extra money apart from the 3,700. Now, do you think this is something you can budget for her?
Yes.
3,700 a year? Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
nice. So we can do two trial applications. We can do one for you for $2 million, and then we're gonna do one for her for $1 million. And also remember, for her, you can put up to 31,000. You see, by the way, as a bonus, let me show you something, okay? As a
Mhm.
bonus. So when we put an application for your child, it said 3,770, correct?
Mhm.
Let's say we specify, and do you do 3,770, all right, for let's say 2 years. And then you later decide and put $9,000 a year, because let's say you have extra income. Maybe you run a business or something, all right? And you
Mhm.
do this for a period of time, $9,000, not 30, just $9,000, all right? Let me show you how it's going to happen on your child's account, Hortensia. As I told you, this is just a bonus, okay? I'm just showing you if you decide to do something like that. So you've contributed 3,700. This is how the account works. By year 3, you have extra money. You decided not even to put 30,000. You're only putting $9,000. By the time your child is 18 years old, you'd have contributed 142,000. How much do you have in their savings?
200,000.
Mhm. By the time this child is 30 years old, how much they have in their savings?
More than 500,000.
By the time this child is 40 years old, how much does she have?
Wow. 1,172,000.
By the time she is 65 years old, how much does she have?
Wow. Five
Because
million
the
five
truth is,
hundred.
yeah, because by the time she's 21, 23, 24, she's already an adult. You can teach her how to do the same savings. 24 years from today, 9,000 won't be anything. You know that. And
Yeah.
they will have their own career. And they can do more than that. If they do 30,000, that's even crazier. You see what I mean? So you're locking them early, but they're having an account that they can thank you for life. And then if they want to get married at that age, they can borrow money against themselves. They can do so much. They can go to school, they can do a business. Does that make sense? So we're gonna
Mhm.
go ahead and do just target premium, but on an event you want to put more money, just so you know that's how it works. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow, don't you like that? Anyway, so that's all I wanted to show you. And then of course, for our application, since you actually on the computer, it's going to be very easy. Once I just log in, I can share the mouse with you. We are just gonna like, I'll actually lead you a little bit here. When I go to iGo and click here, and then all I'm gonna do is when I click on start new case, let's say, of course, we're starting with you. I'm gonna put, let's say, Hortensia B, and then we put here 1 1, let's say nine, no, yeah, like that. And then female, and then I'll put $ $2 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Education for an adult, the state of Kansas, you see? And then product type, I'm going to put index universal life. And then right here, I'm going to click on select, because that's the account we're looking at. No second agent, no other insured. I'm going to select yes, because you're between the age of 18 and 45, and you're getting a policy of $2 million or less. So I'll say yes, because the underwriting process is different. Now you are married. So let me put, let's say Mrs. Do you have a middle initial, Hortensia?
No.
No. All right. So I'll leave it the way it is. I'll select married. You said you're a citizen. And let's say you give me your social. So thank you for your social. Birth country, you said, where were you
Kenya.
born again? Kenya? Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
Kenya. And then you said how tall were you again?
5'4",
5'4", that is correct. And do you know how much you weigh roughly?
160 pounds.
Okay, so sometimes I do calculate the BMI, okay? And the reason why I do that is because if you're a healthy adult, you have no any other medications, sometimes we can kind of help each other a little bit on that angle. But let's see here, you are 32, 5'4", and 160. Okay, that's not bad. Maybe because you just had a baby too, right? So let's say maybe I would assume your average, maybe, let's try.
Female.
You said
He
what?
didn't put female.
You said what?
The gender.
Oh, let's see. All right. So let me put a random number here because I know like with you, you just had a baby, so and you're not having any medical issues. We'll try this. I mean, if they have any issues, because I don't know when's the last time you don't weigh yourself every day, do you?
No.
All right. And it's kind of hard to really know how much you are now because sometimes, after you have a baby, women sometimes also lose some weight and whatever. So we'll add your driver's license there in a second. We'll add your address and then we'll continue from there. All right. So let me stop sharing here for a second. So usually what I do, I'm going to go ahead and do remote sharing. You're going to control my screen and fill the rest of the information while I'm here with you. All right. So thank you so much, Atencia. Now that we are done filling your application, we have to pray that you get approved.
Thank you.
We have to pray that you get approved because I'm telling you, I see a lot of people getting approved and how excited they are, but sometimes we get declined. So in an event you get a decline, we're gonna have to go look for a different company and see if they can approve you. And we usually try at least two, three, before we decide. But then on an event they still say no, then we just have to try another option. Okay. But I really think you have a good chance. So just fingers crossed. All right. Now, Hortensia, you have friends, right? You have friends, your colleagues, your family members. Are they here in the US or they're all in Kenya? All your friends, they're in Kenya or they're also here?
I have some here.
Oh, okay, nice. Are they nurses like you or they do other things?
Uh, I have all types of friends.
Ah,
Some.
nice. Nice. So let me be honest with you, Hortensia. So we've been really honestly reaching out to a lot of people, giving them the information, trying to help families and stuff like that. So, Penny was kind enough to share this information with you. And I know Penny, she loves, loves, loves her friends. And she was like, hey, you need to talk to my friend Hortensia. She's very smart. She's hardworking. And I know she's going to benefit from this information. Now, I'm sure you found value, right, in what we
Yeah.
shared?
Mhm.
Awesome. So now, did you pay Penny for her to give you access to me? Okay, awesome.
Mhm.
So if I were to say, Hortensia, help me help your friends, is that something that you think your friends have to pay you for you to do that?
No.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure you have some friends in mind right now that you know they can benefit from this. Maybe people
Yes.
with kids, your colleagues, or whatever. So who are the people, maybe your top 5 lists in your head that you think, you know what? I don't want them to go to probate. I don't want their kids to suffer. I don't, who comes to your head right now? Can you give me some names? Maybe 5?
I have like 10 already.
Oh, you have like 10? Oh my gosh. You want to write them down? No, like
Yes, I
seriously, I want you to write them down. Okay. Write them down and also write their phone numbers because I really, really want for us to reach out to them and be able to help them. Okay.
yeah.
Now, my schedule is usually very busy. I'm always overbooked, but I'll be more than happy to, create time and be able to work with them. Okay. All you have to tell them is ask them um, what account do they have that can replace their income on an event they fall sick? What account do they have for their kids? You can write down these questions too. What account do they have for their kids to go to college on an event, they're trying to go to college so they don't have to pay student loans. And what account do they have that can help them with taxes? So account to replace their income, account that is going to be tax-free, or account for their kids so they don't have to worry about, taking student loans on the time they go to college. And then please, if you can be on the phone with them as you're talking, just do a 3-way call with me and so that we can, get those appointments. I'll be more than happy to help them. And as you know, they don't have to pay you, but I don't know, do you feel like I have to pay you, for doing that or no? You're doing for
This
free?
information is very important.
Yeah, okay. So I know you don't want me to pay your Hortensia, but we have an ambassador program, just so you know. We have a financial ambassador program and we honestly advocate financial literacy. And when you refer these people to us, honestly, you will also get paid. Okay.
Hmm.
You will get paid, yes. Now you get paid up to $200 as an ambassador. And that is for every person that gets approved for these plans. So if all of your 10 friends get approved and they're family members or whatever, you can get up to $200, for I believe for couples and kids. If it's just kids, then maybe it's $100 or something like that. But it's something, right? As an appreciation and for the way you're advocating financial literacy. Okay. But also in the state of Kansas, I believe also. If you want, you have an option of how I can also show you can get your own license. Takes you like 2 days. So with you're probably busy, you're just a new mom, you have work, I don't know what else you have going on. I assume you're a very busy professional. So another option is also to be an ambassador, but I can also show you can get your own license for the same referrals that you give me. Instead of you getting just $200, we add you on the system. So when these companies pay us, they also pay you. And that could be a little over $200, but I don't know how much it's going to be, but it's usually a little over $200. And also, at the end of the year, they give you 1099. So when you go back to work and you're working all this year with your W-2, you know how they always deduct taxes? Yeah, so at the end of the year, they get to give you 1099. So when you file taxes together with your W-2, they get to return some of the taxes they've been deducting. So you get to make more money from your taxes as well.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know which kind of ambassador you'd rather be. You want the $200? You want me to show you? You can also get your own license in the 2
The
days.
licensed one.
The license one? Yeah, okay. So I can show you how to do that. It literally just takes like to me, for me, it took me like 3 days because I was kind of like busy at that time. But on average, it takes like 2 days. So you just register on the platform. Um, I show you how to get your study material. They do like a little background on you. You don't have any felonies, do you? Like, I just have to ask, okay. So that's what they do. So once, they figure out you have no felonies, they give you access to the platform, you get your license. And the truth is we help people to how to pass their little test because this is like a little test and then you're good to go. So yeah, so how about you write down those names for me, please, and the phone
Mhm.
numbers, and then we'll reach out to them, and then I can walk you through how to do your registration. You can do
Okay,
that. Okay, all
sounds
right,
good.
let's start it.